She called me a rag, not a wolf. I will show her she is wrong." Those were the words written in a diary found in a small, depressed town in Russia. The author, Alexander Bychkov, wasn't just venting frustration over a girl named Svetlana who rejected him. He was documenting the birth of a monster. In his notebook, he meticulously recorded his darkest thoughts, his hunting strategies, and the shocking details of 11 cases. He wanted to prove he was a predator, a wolf among sheep. This is the story of the Belinsky maniac, a young man who turned his inferiority complex into a nightmare, terrorized a city while police chased the wrong suspect, and ultimately found love from behind bars. Welcome to the Eastern Bloc. To understand the monster, we must look at his habitat, Belinsky, a small town in the Penza Oblast, home to just over 9,000 people. It is not a place of opportunity. As Bychkov himself wrote, Belinsky is a small, depressing place that no one cares about. Poverty is the norm here, and alcohol is the primary escape. Alexander was born here on April 1st, 1988. His life was tragic from the very start. His father took his own life when Alexander was just a toddler. There were rumors that someone helped him die, but in a town like this, nobody asked too many questions. His mother, Irina, didn't provide a safe haven. She brought a parade of new lovers into their cramped, single-story house. The children, Alexander and his brother Sergei, were forced to work, collecting scrap metal to fund their mother's lifestyle. But neglect was the least of their problems. Abuse was daily. Alexander later testified that his mother would strike him with whatever was at hand, even an electric kettle. He was small, frail, and suffered from a speech impediment. In his own home, he was a victim. At school, he was invisible, a rag. But inside the shy, withdrawn boy, something was brewing. He found an escape in literature. He became obsessed with Ernest Hemingway, particularly the book Green Hills of Africa. He idolized the concept of the hunter, strong, decisive, lethal. During adolescence, the victim decided to fight back. One day, when his mother tried to hurt him, Alexander snapped. He fought back so intensely that she kicked him out of the house. He moved in with his grandmother, but the aggression didn't stop. Then, in 2007, an event occurred that shattered whatever morality he had left. His brother, Sergei, was severely attacked, beaten and thrown from a speeding car, likely over a debt or a theft. Alexander dropped out of college to care for him, working at a car wash, watching his broken brother. Alexander's hatred for the world boiled over. He began drinking heavily. Alcohol transformed the shy locksmith into someone else. Aggressive, confident, dangerous. He started carrying a knife everywhere he went. He was ready to hunt. September 17th, 2009. The day the wolf was born. Alexander was sitting in a park, lost in dark thoughts, when 60-year-old Yevgeny Bychkov approached him. Bychkov was drunk and asked for 5 rubles. Bychkov saw an opportunity. He invited the man to his home for a drink. In his diary, Bychkov described the moment with chilling calmness. The decision was hard, but everything unfolded on its own. I gave him the knife to open bottles. He didn't notice anything. When he looked away, I struck him. It was a single blow. But for Alexander, it was a revelation. He felt a rush of adrenaline he had never experienced before. He hid the body. A month later, feeling invincible because no one had caught him. He returned to the scene. He disturbed the victim's remains and moved them to a different location. He wrote, "I had the courage to do it because I'd already taken a life. I was capable of it." He began calling himself Rambo. His second victim was personal. Vladimir Berezovsky, his mother's abusive ex-partner. On November 4th, 2009, Alexander lured him to a secluded spot near his grandmother's house and attacked him repeatedly with a folding knife. But during the attack, the knife lock failed. The blade snapped back and sliced deep into Alexander's own hand. He went to the hospital to get stitches. The police even questioned him about Berezovsky's disappearance. They saw the fresh wound on his hand. Alexander simply said he fell on some glass in the park. And the police? They believed him. They didn't check the wound pattern. They assumed Berezovsky, a known troublemaker, had just run off. This negligence cost many more lives. By May 2010, two more men, Lev Andreev and Alexei Kutuzov, vanished. Alexander ended them both in a frenzy. Admitting later, he lost control. He concealed their bodies and scattered the parts across the region. When the body parts were finally found, panic struck Belinsky. The police needed a suspect fast. They found one, Alexander Zhupov. Zhupov was mentally ill, large, and strong. He fit the profile. When police tried to arrest him, a knife fell out of his pocket. That was enough. Under pressure and likely intense interrogation, Zhupov confessed to 3 crimes he didn't commit. The police announced a victory. The serial killer was caught and sent to a psychiatric hospital. Meanwhile, the real predator, Alexander Bychkov, watched from the shadows. He stopped hunting for 8 months, letting the police believe their own lie. But the wolf was just waiting for the hunger to return. And when it did, it brought a new, horrific appetite, because taking a life was no longer enough. Alexander Bychkov was about to cross the final taboo. After innocent Alexander Zhupov was locked away, Bychkov waited. He wanted to be sure the police were satisfied with their scapegoat. But the urge returned, and when it did, it evolved. His 6th victim was Vladimir Turusov, an isolated ex-convict whose disappearance went unnoticed. But the next case changed everything. Arkady Archelian wasn't a random target. He knew Bychkov. In fact, he had figured out that Alexander was the killer. He made a fatal mistake. He tried to blackmail the maniac for silence. Bychkov lured him to a secluded spot and ended him. But this time, concealment wasn't just for disposal. Alexander removed a vital organ, put it in a bag, and took it home. His diary entry from that night is pure nightmare fuel. "I prepared it, cooked it, and consumed it. It was great." Alexander Bychkov had become a cannibal. He later claimed he was inspired by Mayan rituals and, of course, Hannibal Lecter. He wrote down methods for preparing human remains, though he later denied specific details, threatening to sue the media for inaccuracy. By the summer of 2011, people were vanishing again. The police were baffled. Their killer was in a mental hospital, yet the body count was rising. Desperate to save face, they developed a new theory. Migrant workers from Tajikistan must be responsible. Bychkov knew this. He intentionally hunted during the summer months when migrant workers were present, using them as a smokescreen. He became brazen. He walked the streets with bags containing grim evidence, rode public buses with remains, and sometimes returned home covered in dark stains. Neighbors saw him. One resident later said, "Sasha was sometimes covered in stains, but who knows? Maybe he got into fights. We didn't interfere. Belinsky was a town of indifference, and that indifference allowed the monster to thrive. So, how do you catch a predator who outsmarts the police for years? You don't. He catches himself. In January 2012, Bychkov decided his arsenal was too small. He broke into a local hardware store to steal 2 knives and about 10,000 rubles. Police investigated the burglary. They looked for locals interested in knives. That led them straight to Alexander. When they brought him in for theft, they expected a routine interrogation. Instead, Bychkov dropped a bombshell. He confessed to the burglary, and then he confessed to being the Belinsky maniac. He told them, "I realized that once a serious investigation began, I was already doomed, so there was no point in hiding it." Police raided his home. They found the knives. They found the red Rambo shirt. And they found the diary. 11 cases described in shocking detail. Each victim marked with a cross. The police were horrified, not just by the crimes, but by the proof of their own incompetence. On March 22, 2013, Alexander Bychkov was sentenced to life in prison. He was sent to Fire Island, the Russian Alcatraz, a fortress for the most dangerous criminals, where inmates spend 22 hours a day in a cell. End of story? Not quite. The media frenzy attracted attention worldwide. Bychkov started receiving fan mail, and one letter came from Nevada, USA. Christina War, an American law student, saw his face on the news. She taught herself Russian just to write to him. The romance blossomed. Christina flew to Russia. On her second visit to the penal colony, she married the cannibal. On the third visit, they were granted a conjugal visit. The result? A child. Christina returned to the US and gave birth to Bychkov's son. She supports his mother financially and believes that one day her husband will be released to join her in America. She claims his crimes do not frighten her. Today, Alexander Bychkov sits in a cell on Fire Island. He regrets getting caught, lamenting his ruined plans for the future. He claims he wants a psychologist, not a psychiatrist. Official records state he killed 9 people. His diary lists 11. Investigators believe the true number could be over 20. In a twisted way, he got his wish. But to the families of Belinsky, he remains exactly what the girl who rejected him said he was, a rag. If you want to uncover more dark secrets from the former Soviet Union, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. We dig where others refuse to look. My name is Victor, and this is the Eastern Bloc.